Thanks, Rena. Great. So Tamarah Rockwood is going to read next, and I've known Tamarah for a few years now because she and her husband Ben came to work with us when we first started Poetry on the Salish Sea at Wilderby Farm. Some of you were probably there then. Well, maybe our second reading or something. Tamarah and Ben showed up and have been with us ever since. When I called Tamarah a week ago to see if she might consider stepping in because Jose Enrique Medina had a family emergency come up and he was unable to come up after all. And she immediately texted back, yes, without any hesitation, and even though I'm sure she had many other things on her calendar. So thank you, Tamarah. If you were here on February 14th, you know Tamarah is the author of the now famous potato poem. And also, she is the author of a wide-ranging, elegant poetry collection, A.B. A.B., the first letters of the English alphabet, the alpha and beta of the markings we use to indicate script or pixels, what we mean to say, are hieroglyphics. Alpha, the beginning of what we're involved with as poets, gestures and utterances. And beta, a very old word with roots in Phoenician, Arabic, Hebrew, and Greek that indicates flux, change, variables, the shifting winds at the heart of many of Tamarah's poems. Layered meanings, those two letters, the urgencies and narratives of her book. Eked out, I suspect, in dark hours of the night and early hours of the morning, or waiting outside of school for one of her 5 children to emerge. Speak, girl, she says in one poem, maybe to give herself courage or to lend courage to other poets. Speak with your tongue. Speak this.
I'm opening with that poem. So, that's great minds. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm so grateful. And usually I'm not nervous, but I just want to make sure that I have all my poems here, and we'll see. Never done spoken word before. So, I wrote Speak Girl, and it was recognized by the Poetry Society of Oregon because there's so many times that all of us need to say something and we wonder if we should. Not that we can't, but should we? And I told myself I should. So this was an encouragement to myself. Speak, girl. Speak with your tongue. With these voices you have heard, tasted, eaten, spit out, berated, joined, feared, admonished, grasped, and understood. The voices in the forest which have raised you from worm to woman. Speak of all that you have seen in the keyholes of the canopy, of the woodpecker's grit, of the coyote's howl, of the wasp's territorial nest in the stump, and of the time when they followed you home and stung you 1,000 times, and how you killed them all in the bathroom, and then stood outside on the planks of gopher wood and stared the forest in the face and continued to breathe. Speak this.
There's someone over here who's taking pictures and wants to be able to see.
I was taught to eat the microphone, so I'm eating the microphone. But that's fine, that's cool.
This one up there, you're good, Michael, huh? Yeah, I think you're good.
You're in charge more than I am. So my family is from Nova Scotia, and my grandfather was an amazing man who moved us, or at least he moved his family to Los Angeles, and that's where I was born. And so I was raised with very dry humor in Los Angeles, and I'm sorry. But we knew, I don't know Los Angeles the way that people see it, Los Angeles on TV, because I was raised in the hills and on the beach, and I know that the town that I grew up in used to be a barley farm in 1950, and I know where the barley grows in the cracks. So that's the Los Angeles that I know, and so when I look at the world, that's the perspective that I have. So this was a poem that was published, obviously, in Australia, and it's called Coyotes Laughing. I don't know if they have coyotes on Australia. Maybe that's why they thought it was hilarious. But they liked it. I was studying T.S. Eliot at the time, so this is Coyotes Laughing. When the forest changed, you changed. Its hardy growth fell like leaves and left the floor strewn with golden intentions of a season. Verdant, pedantic bodies of trees, stiff with buds, clinging to the sheets of dawn, hanging impotent and unseated. We listened to the vinyl record of jazz from the night before, some Davis number. We both recognized the trumpet calling the band out of the woods. Your arms cast a shadow across my face, and I could hear your voice. It was a voice which spoke through the waters withheld from him, designed to carry him away from the edges of the garden which knew him. In the forest, I could hear the voices dancing around the coyote, the laughing scoundrel. They were beautiful, long, and full of vines. Naturally, he drank of their fragrant wine kisses laid upon him by oiled fingers who touched his chest and anointed him with the sweat of Gadriel, leading his lips into the deep forest and carving his name into the divided branches of the tamarisk tree at Gibbereth. We watched the coyote nip the edge of my garment, and the forest changed, and I changed even though I brought the hammer to the nail into the gopher wood. Okay, this is the last poem from A.B., which is my favorite cover. Not that you need to buy a poetry book for its cover, but I got to choose the cover, and so it's my favorite. This is called The Handless Maid, and I was studying fairy tales at the time, and they're dark. And so there was one, usually when you have a fairy tale, there is a body part that is removed, and it's a tongue for your voice, it is hair for sovereignty. There is one where they removed a woman's hands, and I said, that's strange. Why did they do that? Because usually so anyways, I wrote a poem about it. It was called The Handless Maiden. And I just stomped my foot, if I remember. Okay. I know, we know, we know. We must focus on the now. Focus on the present and also plan for the future. For what? We ask for the future, stupid. For the thread we feel pull us, it is our ace in the whole. Words we know like siblings, which we hate and we love. We argue against and for. Words will reject us. We know how they get us. They get us. The thread we feel pull on our tongue to speak, to push for purpose, for fun, the women. There are women everywhere. We must bond as women, mustn't we? A myriad of waves of ways, some leading to sisters, some threads spinning off women we know. We know we must, mustn't we? Love all of ourselves, us, she, and our failure, we know. Don't we suffer from failure, or do we? Do we know how to fail, since we can only fail once, maybe a time? Or are we trying to fail? Are we trying to win? We know the failure happens when we know how to fail again. I know you know the faces of the world. You know the tigress, the hummus, the anise, the airline seats, the taxi lines, the lines, the lines, the lines on the sand, on the walls, on the faces, on the fingers. We know these fingers. These are my fingers. These are your fingers walking across maps. We know, I know the papers of shelves, of stands, of nightstands. You know, and now I know the scribbles in the margins. You write what you know. I know my voice. I know your ears. We know the sounds of the lips that whisper or spit. We know the sound of our voice. We know where the sun also shines. We know where the flowers also grow. Thread your fingers between our chairs. Lean near and we breathe, we know. So I like love, and it seems like a nice thing. I was trying to write love poetry and I can't, but I'm working on it. It just, I don't know. So I was working through one, and there was someone that was talking about a breakup, and she said that she just thought that her unconditional love will save it all. And that's just such a statement, and so I took it. And I thought, what could be more useless for her failed relationship than unconditional love? And I thought potato. And I was just hearkening to my heritage in Scotland. But this is called, instead of a love poem, which I cannot write, this is a potato poem. Instead of love, that cannot be defined or confined, I will call it a potato. Hard-skinned survivor, eyes watching in the dark, memory keeper of famines and feast. Hagsin lean buntada, savior and destroyer, blight turned flesh to sodden graves, a million dead, a million fled, tender offer, ocean crosser, black fields of rot, root treasure once, grief vessel of ache, now, and yes, now I will call this ache a potato instead, this corporeal clutch beneath my ribs, this ridiculous thing that sprouts, until my chest becomes a field of want. Hard okra flesh that once fed families, until the hunger came and took them all. But these potatoes that sit in a bowl between us are full of flesh. And surely, even Falstaff cried, let the sky rain potatoes. My potato, this dirt jewel in feral fields, I turn slowly over the persimmon flame until its silken flesh becomes my feast that vanquishes a famine. I stab to release our built-up tension. My unconditional potato reminds me what feeds can kill and what kills can feed. This hard, silent thing I store inside my chest, full of eyes, like a starving goddess's gaze. I will eat it with my hands. I will eat it with a spring rabbit. is not, it's been published in other places, and this was published in Ireland because Ireland likes me. And this is, and it's better on the page. It's all, I wanted to use the page, so you're just gonna have to trust me. And this is called Actually, because my oldest son started every single sentence with actually for 3 years, and it gets stuck in your head. And then you think, what is this word? What can we do with it? I'll make it into a poem. So I made it into a poem, but actually it's really good. Actually, let's define it. It is an adverb. It ends with ly. It is an action. Actually, let me explain it. It is a sound. It is a moment. It is the volta in a sonnet. Actually, I feel it. Like it is waking up in a new room, or it is like smelling a cologne from my grandfather's neck, or it is like when you have stared a little too long, or when you have smiled a little too big, or it is like learning something new, something that is actually true. No, but actually, it is when the ship left to cross the waters. It is when the foot left to step the threshold. It is when the mouth opened to say goodbye. But actually, the foot did not step, the mouth did not speak, and the ship was set on fire by a rocket. Actually, this is not a dictionary, and we are not reading a definition of anything. We are turning our words into a new truth. Now, I turned all of this at my desk at my house, and I also left my phone in my purse, so I'm just gonna assume that I'm on time. This is Metamorphosis, and I wanted the divide of things. That's all. So Metamorphosis for Ovid. As readily as the moon eclipsed the sun, as smoothly as Io slipped on her heifer skins, as Daphne raised her arms into laurel branches, so did Echo unname herself. From autumnal leaf to soil, a stump abandoned to burrow, a sunken pit to pond, a fallow field to flower, due to, as to, unto, onto, into. Okay, so salmon is very important here. It is also very important in Scotland. There's a whole book that I'm writing about it, and I'm not going to tell you about it now because I don't have time. But this, I was trying to write a poem about salmon, and I just kept writing it about myself, and it just didn't sound right. And so I asked my husband Ben, and I said, "How would you write about a salmon?" And he told me something that was completely different. So this is a poem that I have published, and the title is "How Would a Man Write About a Salmon?" It's also very good. How would a man write about a salmon? Abstract, broad strokes, shades of secondary colors, pinks, teals, grays, mirrors of himself. Fins moving independently to guide his naval journey. When the clear shock of fresh water passes through his open throat, causing a mute bubble celebration to trail his path upstream towards metaphor, towards the circle of life, towards the universe upstream. He observes life and death, but he does not embody life and death. He does not become life and death. He does not heal from the universe. He does not hear the crunch of the foot from nearby bears who wait at the gray hilt of the river, also with wide open throats that prepare for the advancing salmon the nearly here winter, the early dusk afternoons, the graying foliage, the hardening shorelines, calcified, frozen, littered with bones and beaks from last summer's pink cycle, this Titian conversion from salt to spring, patient, noble. The fish has no mind, it is all muscle that swims and eats and fights and lives and dies. It is something else when it is observed. It is not a metaphor for healing. It is not him. It is not legacy. It is written about by a man, yes, the way a man would write about a man. Okay, without a clock, I think that I have time for 3 short ones and 1 long one. And I'm not going to look at Catherine. I think I can make this happen. So you guys all got to be with me. All right, so this one has the F word in it, and which I think is not the yeah, exactly. As soon as you said that, I'm just like, that's me. I'm so excited. So there's a book that I'm fishing out for publishers, as you do. And the thing is, like with Odysseus and the Odyssey, he was on the Isle of Aegea with Calypso for 7 years. They never wrote about it. So I wrote about it. And this is, from the perspective of Calypso, I like her. I thought that she would pray for herself, but where would she pray? I don't think she would pray at home. Because when you're out, you're doing stuff, and then you're like overwhelmed. So I have Calypso praying in the produce section. I'm tired. Again, the dawn is bright with truth, and wild the child divides as wide as time. Let time then rest my brow, persuade a chime to release the heated new stars from youth. These fresh fruits, silent, firm, and wet with tears, which face of mine will he refuse to see? Is it the face of fire when we disagree? Many skins have I shed throughout his years. I wish rage would leave his troubled heart, those sour thoughts that point his grazing gaze, grows for death, for roads, for war, for ships, for bows. Screw the dawn and fuck the sin. Let me keep him, keep him, keep him, keep him. Okay, this one is very short, so I'm going to read it slow. This is on the dock of Aegea. So Aegea is the island that Calypso was on. When you are in motion, when you pull the oars at your sides, when your eyes fill with the horizon, let me be the water. Let me be the water. Let me be the water. All right, I'm going to read, these are my last 2. I'm going to read a long one, and then I'm going to read one that has nothing to do with Calypso at all. This is an Ephrasis poem. There was a painting that I saw, and it was called Odysseus Mixed Media. It was just big shapes of color that made a man. And I thought, that looks like Odysseus. And so that's what I wrote a poem about. So the title is Odysseus Mixed Media. Why think of another one? It's there. You had to leave the war. The war was over. There. On your way home, you stopped looking for home. You asked where your men were, which direction the sky was pointing, and I told you that the sky was fake. You took my hand and I led you away from the war. under my LED sun and over Cuban sandwiches, with cool beer that you accepted so eagerly as you drowned yourself into my brown eyes and listened to my rabbit trail stories that led your ears away from the sounds of mechanical reloading, and you listened to my papier-mâché projects that created trees, and how to mold chicken wire to make men, and how to stack rocks to build a lighthouse. Nothing in this world seemed real, because it isn't real, silly. You listened to my flattering stories about other sailors who failed to win against the sea, and I would watch them crash into my little island that my father had given to me when I myself was driftless and distracted. He said, I remember so clearly, that I needed a goal in life, something to keep me grounded and undoubtedly out of trouble. We debated mundane topics between scraps of paper left on the counter next to the felt bananas. During the days, we would ignore the acrylic vineyards, and we would lay on our backs on the astroturf until the sun blinded you. There were no shadows at noon. The shadows of your land were never long enough to reach across the sea to my shores. Slowly, the crags of grease slipped out of your eyes, and your frown melted in the sun. You had arrived with your stoic eyes and the beeswax still in your ears, and I let you wrestle with yourself. I let you wrestle with the war. I let the beeswax melt from your ears. You were escaping the war. You lived in this unreal world of my own, this little domestic world that I live in, that I crafted. We have dinner at 7. Trash goes out on Thursday. There are no alarms in the morning. There are no orders for you. You exist as yourself with no one to hurt you in this place. But your eyes followed the shadows during cocktail hour, so you kept asking yourself, how was the sky so blue? And I tell you again, this sky of mine isn't real, and I pour you another drink. As the sun sets into a comfortable quilt of colors, yes, I even spun the sunset on my loom. I created everything here, this imaginary time in between war and home. I will admit that I felt my heart sink when you sleepily asked me if I had ever made a boat. All right, this is the last one. Now this is a really special one, and I didn't edit it. It was good, the first draft. I tried to edit it. I like it. I think you'll like it. I published it with poetry, or with the poem, with the potato poem. So it should be great. All right, this is Fig Jam, because also Fig Jam is what I make in December, and so that's when I write it. Okay. But it's really sad, so I want to leave on a down note. Fig Jam. My legs are made of bones. I am so much more aware of my bones because they break. One time when I was young and clumsy, I broke my collarbone. I was in a harness resetting that bone. My bones are funny like that because when they heal, that's because my bones break differently than my heart breaks. My heart breaks for good reasons, for sad reasons, for justice, for injustice. The break is me. The break in my heart becomes me. I look at the break, and it is who I was. I remember who I was before the break. The break is not really a break, though. It is a spoonful of fig jam that starts at the top of my heart and drips down until my heart is consumed by fig jam, and I can't breathe through the jam, and my heart hurts when it beats through the jam, but I wait until it has all dripped off, and then the memory of the break is sweet. I eat it on warm biscuits, and I lick it off my fingers.
If you join us at the reception afterwards, be sure to ask Tamarah how to find her Substack. It is so worth reading. It's so worth reading. It's just brilliant. Ben and Tamarah are going to have some of their books from Bainbridge Press over at the reception, I think. Gosh, I've been wanting to hear Kim Trainor read since I found her book in 2015, I think. The root of the word karyotype refers to that which is a hard exterior, like a nut or a crab or a kernel. What the body might be protected by. Scientists mean by karyotype a characteristic chromosomal marker by which an individual or a species